3, 2, 1. So bad.
I think it was bad for both of us.
Okay.
It's not the first time you've heard that. Are you tired? Are you tired of me yet? This is a long, we're on a marathon right now.
I know. I was tired of you in 2015.
That's a good point. That's fair.
I don't know, just start. Blazing Saddles.
This is your first time? Have we not done these before?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's more of a casual lead in and just... Yeah, I feel like we're funnier at the top, and it's like fun, and then
we need to be funnier.
Yeah, it's like, it's not just like
Blazing Saddles.
Just start talking, Keith.
Well, let's see what you got. That's what we got
I have
here.
nothing. I've never had anything. Why do you assume I have things? I don't. I have nothing. Okay, so Blazing Saddles. My number thrice.
Oh, we can't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, because that's like a thing. Oh, fuck.
It's like white power.
Yeah. This is not what the episode. Well,
kind of.
Kind of.
Speaking of
accidental segue. It's unbelievable.
Segway's abilities are just
Segue kings are at it again. Unbelievable.
It is my privilege to extend a laurel and hearty handshake to our new
Speaking of racism, Blazing Saddles. My third favorite.
You found it.
Yeah, Segue Kings. My number 3 favorite film of all time, because Mel Brooks is a genius, and I'm excited to talk about Mel Brooks's place in comedy and what it is to be this offensive and this unpolitically correct, and everything about this film is funny. I shouldn't say everything about this film, but majority of this film is really, really funny, and it has aged so poorly. It is just insane. It's all of it is just crazy. So there's just so much to talk about. I think there's a lot to unpack here. But for those who don't know, because I like to give context to these films, Blazing Saddles is a spaghetti western spoof, essentially, about a black sheriff taking over a white town as a form of a way to sabotage the town by an evil villain who's trying to steal the land of that town, to build railroad tracks through to further his financial gains. And little to his knowledge, it starts to work, and people rally around the black sheriff, and comedy and adventure ensue. Fair recollection? I don't know. I'm not good at those.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, that all sounds about right.
So, with all of that said, heavily shrouded in race relations and making light of literally every race possible. What do you think? I don't know. What emotions does this film bring up for you? Because I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, okay. Well, it should be stated that it's universally considered to be one of the best 2 or 3 comedies of all time. From a critical standpoint, this film is adored.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it and you watch it for the first time today, you're gonna be shocked.
Good morning, ma'am. And isn't it a lovely morning? Up yours.
The point of the film is using very racially charged, very sexually charged, offensive humor to illustrate how stupid and those kind of people are,
right?
And to ridicule those people. That's
what needs to be. You're right. And explaining the joke is the worst thing for comedians. It's like magicians explaining how they do it. But it probably needs to be said that they are mocking those who are bigots.
Yeah.
And that line of thinking.
The white people are the stupidest, dumbest, most useless, helpless people in this movie. They're
Correct.
just the most outwardly racist.
Yes, so
too. Like but that's all part of the.
That's part of it. It is what their
depiction.
ignorance is what we are mocking.
These are people of the land, the common clay of the New West. You know, morons.
There is very little, just personally speaking, that can offend me from a comedy standpoint, especially like it's just not a thing. So when I watched this film, I probably saw this film for the first time much more recently than you would expect. It's probably like 5 or 6 years ago I first saw Blazing Saddles. So I didn't see it as a kid for whatever reason. I want to get to my main point here because it's a good one. So I saw it and I knew kind of what it was going to be going in, and I thought, okay, yeah, I get it. Wow, this is really over the top in all these different ways. Like the first scene, there's N-words and homophobic slurs and I mean just everything all at once. Like it's very, they're gonna let the black guys die and they take the cart out of the quicksand, all that stuff. But it is very funny if you're willing to, be drawn into that kind of comedy. That said, so I don't mind that stuff. I don't get hung up on the political correctness stuff because again, the goal of the film is to lampoon racists by using racism, which you can debate the merits of that, but that's neither here nor there.
That's the point.
All right, we'll give some land to the and the but we don't want the Irish.
Additionally, I also love Mel Brooks. I think Mel Brooks is obviously a seminal figure in American comedy, film, cinematic comedy. So many of his films are memorable and wonderful. He's like a crazy uncle or grandpa that's hilarious, and I love him. I respect his body of work so much. All of that said, I don't think Blazing Saddles is very good. I don't think it's a good movie, and it has nothing to do with the content aging poorly, though it has. It doesn't bother me. I just don't think it's a good movie. I think it is extremely overrated.
So you don't think it's a good movie, or you don't think it's funny, or you don't think it's both?
Both. I think it was clearly funny when it came out, and there are still parts that I go, ha ha ha. But there's, as someone who saw it for the first time in 2015 or whatever, it's not a very funny movie. And this sort of speaks to the Anchorman situation, maybe, but even more exaggerated.
That's insane. It's insane.
I know.
It's insane. It's insane for you to say it's not funny. You want to argue that it's not a good movie? I think it's a good movie. I think it's all of those things. The only thing I'll concede or meet you at is not everything is funny. There's a couple parts that I'm like, all right, like whatever. For example, really most of the Mongo stuff I think is dumb. I think the farting thing is dumb.
Yeah, but people love that. That's
I know. We'll talk about the farting scene because I think there's a really interesting part about that as well. But like the Looney Tunes thing where like he candygram for Mongo.
Mongo like candy.
That's stupid. It's stupid. There's a handful of things that are dumb in that film. But as a whole, there are some of the funniest lines ever in this film. When God, I don't even know if I can say some of these lines.
Do it. You pussy.
It's so funny.
Hey, boys, look what I got here. Hey, where are the white women at?
That was one of the few
funniest
lines
things
I
ever.
laughed out loud.
Ever.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't mean to say there's no funny, that none of it's funny, because it's clearly there's still some things that are funny. I'm not blanket statement making that it's not funny. That's funny that you singled that out, because that was literally the one line I like cackled out loud at.
That's so,
like that was really funny.
And then when they find out that he's black, and he's like, no, that's ash from the cross burning, and then he wipes his hand and he flips it over, and it's like,
See, it's coming off.
like I don't know, I can't say that, but that's so funny. That's so funny. I think the Hedley Lamarr is one of the best characters in all of cinema. I love his, Harvey Korman is the actor, and he is one of the great comedic actors of that era, and maybe of all time. He was on the Carol Burnett show. He's the first everyman to me. Like, he plays such a straight man villain so well. He's in a handful of Mel Brooks' projects. He plays the straight man so well. He is, I think, there's so many things I want to talk about how, like, for you to say that it's not, like, that you can't see the comedic merit in this film blows my mind. Like,
I didn't say that either.
But you said it's not funny. You said it's not funny.
That's very different. I just don't think most of the things that were probably very funny, whatever year this came out in the early 70s or what have you, they just haven't aged in a humorous sense well. Like, it's just a different kind of humor. So it's and so that was the big picture of the Anchorman conversation is, so does that make it a good film if it's not good if you watch it right now, if it's not nearly as funny?
But no comedy film will be. The Anchorman thing is different because we're talking about centering it around an ungrounded character.
Yeah, it's different in the specific.
It's different in that sense. Like, these characters are grounded for that time, for the Western, for the time. Like, these types of people existed.
Well, yeah, but you could say that about Anchorman, that these types of people, there were newscasters that existed.
No, not to this level.
Mongo
not to that.
is not a realistic character.
Comedy is always exaggerated to where you could argue that none of these people would ever exist. That's the fucking point. Like, the West was like this in some regards. They had sheriffs and they had townsfolk and they were poor, ignorant people, and there was racism back then. Like that. Like, so
I just don't think many of the jokes land anymore. That's sort of my point.
We need to watch it together because you're wrong. There's I would say over 50%. Like, not every joke lands, of course, but not every joke lands in every comedy. But now I'm just going to sit here and be like, you don't think this is funny? You don't think this is going to be a terrible episode where I just recite Blazing Saddles to you? And I sound like the biggest racist on earth. Like, that's
We must do something about this immediately! Harumph, 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 harumph. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
Give the governor harumph.
Harumph! You watch your ass.
This is fun because finally it's you on that side of things, because I feel like normally it's just me like defending these great films.
Yeah,
like, no.
This is
and you're
historically
like, well, Zodiac's meh. And the Birdman is shitty. And now I'm just to be like, yeah, Blazing Saddles is not as good as everyone thinks it is. And you're like,
it just makes me so angry. Because the best movie, I've said this to you personally before, the best movie-going experience I've ever had was seeing Blazing Saddles in theaters after Gene Wilder had passed away. A theater here in Boston ran Blazing Saddles after Gene Wilder passed away, and I said, I gotta go see this film. And I thought I was gonna be the only person in the theater. I thought it was like, who's gonna go see this film? And it was packed. There was not an empty seat.
What city was that?
Whether seriously or thrown around as a joke, Boston is often referred to as one of the most racist cities in America.
I don't know what to say now. I don't know how to, like...
Here, I'll give you a couple specifics.
Was there anything you did
jokes
like?
That don't land, because that's just very subjective. But I felt like after watching it the last time I watched it that there was just it felt, and perhaps it was. So it felt a bit rushed, like they needed to make this movie quickly. So there's like, for whatever reason, and it feels like as I'm watching it, one, no disrespect to, is it Cleavon Little?
Cleavon Little, yes.
No disrespect to that actor, but that's clearly needs to be Richard Pryor, and it was meant to be.
It was meant to be
but
Richard
they
Pryor.
Wouldn't. Yeah, and so if I'm Mel Brooks, I don't make the movie. I refuse to make that movie with this.
He did, and Richard Pryor handpicked Cleavon Little.
I wanted Richard to be Black Bart. I wanted to be the Black Sheriff, but he had been arrested, and Warner Brothers said you can't get insurance. So I said, Richard, I'm not gonna. If you're not doing Bart, I'm not gonna do it. He said, you gotta do it, Mel. I got 2 more writers' payments. Please do the movie. So Richard and I were casting. We're looking for the Black Sheriff. We saw about 100 guys. Some of them were pretty good, but when Cleavon Little walked in, this beautiful sculpture, handsome, laid back, brilliant guy. And Richard said, you know, if I had played Bart, I'm kind of, you know, coffee colored, and I have a mustache. I could be Cuban. He said, but that motherfucker, he is black.
He is very good. He's not
He's
bad.
fine.
He's not
but
bad.
I want more from that role. And speaking of, this movie, I can't imagine a greater waste of Gene Wilder's talents. Like, he has nothing to do. He has nothing
He's
to do.
the second lead. What are you talking about?
It was originally supposed to be
another
like
guy, some
John
drunk.
Wayne or a straight man, you know, a serious guy. As like I read another thing where it was going to be like a soap opera actor or something, like some bland white guy, and that is what it is. Because Cleavon character should have been the really outgoing the star of the show, and they have these roles switched because of the actors. Gene Wilder is the much greater talent, and I want to see him do funny stuff. Gene Wilder, I don't think, makes me laugh once in this movie. Like, what? He's just kind of there.
A man drink like that and he don't eat, he is going to die.
When?
Gene Wilder is just a pleasure to watch on screen, and it shows his versatility. Like, he doesn't. Sure, the comedy may not come from him. The comedy comes from Cleavon Little. The comedy comes from the absurdity of all the racists, of all the bad people, and the comedy comes from Harvey Korman. I think he is outstanding in this film.
How's it going?
It's like wet sauerkraut in my hands. By morning, he will be my slave.
Splendid. Just let me have a little feel.
Madeline Kahn, let's not forget.
And Madeline Kahn, absolutely. Oh, Madeline Kahn, it may be one of the best comedic actresses of all time as well.
For sure. I am the president of the Madeline Kahn fan club.
She is fantastic.
So talented and underrated hottie of a generation. She is gorgeous.
A very beautiful woman.
I Googled her after I watched this to be like, Madeline Kahn? Got all that going on?
Yeah, she is a beautiful woman and immensely talented and super funny. I love her in Clue. I think Clue's an underrated comedy film as well.
Yeah, I liked Clue a lot.
I killed Yvette. I hated her so much. Flames on the side of my face, heaving breaths.
He's such a talented actor that he doesn't need to be the comedic relief. He fills that void very, very well. So I give him credit for not, like, if you put a comedic actor in that part, he probably tries to overreach and outdo it rather than
No, I know, but that's my point. That's my point, is then cast the straight man for that.
But he did it
role.
as a favor. Gene Wilder is such a good person that they, and I don't know him personally, but from what I have read, they cast a guy, they shoot, and he had a drinking problem. They thought he was recovered. He throws up on the first day on set, and they're like, well, I guess he's not over that problem. And then he calls Gene Wilder, and as a favor, he does the film. Like, he bailed Mel Brooks out.
This all lends itself to my point of it feeling kind of rushed and patched together, where it's like, oh, yeah. And I read a lot of that stuff too, where it just feels like all this shit was going wrong, nothing was going the way we wanted, so so-and-so Richard Pryor couldn't be in it, so we got this guy, and then this guy couldn't do it because he was sick with alcoholism, so Gene Wilder can't, like, it just doesn't feel like a coherent project. It just feels like we got these, it's just like some one-off jokes, and it's funny, and it was really funny for the time because Mel Brooks is a genius, but it's not something that holds up well in terms of quality over 40, 50 years later.
I disagree. I think there are parts, there are comedy part, like the song, the I'm Tired song, like I'm not a big musical guy, so I don't.
And that got her nominated for Best Supporting Actress, which is fucking crazy.
She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress? I did not know that.
She's in this movie for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and
she's not in the movie that long. But I do love her character. I like her character. She's I feel like I can't quote any of the film.
You can. Just censor the racial words.
Yeah.
Is it true what they say about the way you people are gifted? Oh, it's true.
The story itself, I think is a good story. It's a dramatic premise, and I think all comedy films should be rooted in dramatic premises. I think that is the mark of a good comedy. If your premise is the joke, you're doing something wrong. The premise of the film is a corrupt government. You're already.
I'm shaking my head because we just did Anchorman, which is funny, but okay.
But that wasn't a
if
great.
The premise of your film is a joke, then you got a problem.
Well, I would argue that premise isn't a joke either.
Okay, you're right. It's a statement on sexism in the workplace. Please continue.
This is why it's so hard to defend comedies. No one wants to have an intellectual conversation about comedies. Here's what I'll argue with you about. I have one criticism, but before I get to my criticism, which I think you would think is uncharacteristic of me, I want to talk about something that Mel Brooks did so often that I think you may find as one of the parts that you didn't like, or just comedy that's like, I don't get it. Not that I don't get it, but like we've aged out of this version of comedy, I should say. And that's breaking the fourth wall.
Where would I find such a man? Why am I asking you?
Mel Brooks is, I would say, famous for continuously breaking the fourth wall. And when I saw this film, I want to say it was really the first time that I saw that. It blew my mind. Like, it was such like a meta thing that I just thought it was absolute genius. Now I look back on it and I go, yeah, maybe it's hokey. Maybe it's a little hokey. But more so than the scene, so I want to get your thoughts on breaking the fourth wall. But before I ask you anything, it's my movie. More so than the scene where they literally leave the film and they go through the Warner Brothers studio, and that's like an iconic scene.
Get your pies for the great pie fight.
Which I think is so funny. The pie fight, I think, is so funny. I think the interrupting the dancing with Dom DeLuise directing, one of my favorite lines. And I can't say it, but I'm going to say it.
Yeah, you can't say it.
Have you got it?
Yes.
Sounds like steam escaping.
But even more so than that breaking the wall, where I lost it as a kid was when Harvey Korman is doing his speech to rally up the troops to say we're going to run through and we're going to trash the town, where he says,
Now you will only be risking your lives, whilst I will be risking an almost certain Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
I think he's killing the performance, and then midway through the performance, he's like, I'm getting an Oscar for this. I thought that was just so funny and so genius, and his performance was so great. I loved it. I loved it so much then. I fell in love with it as a 12-year-old, and to this day, it makes me smile now. So I'm jaded about the whole film because it made me laugh so much as a kid. But breaking the fourth wall, what are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on that iconic scene? Why do you hate it so much?
No, I like breaking the fourth wall a lot when it's called for. You know, especially in comedies like this. I think I love that. I love that aspect. To me, that's the best part of the movie is the finale. The finale. But yeah, when they break out on the movie lot, that's the best. It's so out of nowhere. It's just amazing. And that Dom DeLuise part is probably the funniest part of the movie, in my opinion. That's his line. I mean, he uses a slur, so I won't get into it. But whatever he's like commanding them to dance or whatever, and it's just so funny. It's so funny.
Yeah,
and
I'm
love
working
all
for
that
Mel
stuff.
Brooks.
I love because the Warner Brothers lot is like 5 minutes from my house, and I drive by that like every day. Literally, that stretch where he runs out and like gets in a cab or whatever. That's like right there. So it's fun to be like, oh, that's, you know.
I would loop around that. I would just loop around.
Yeah. It's super cool.
So what didn't you give me a bit? Because I said the Mongo stuff I think is stupid.
A lot of, you know, the medieval times executioner, like a lot of those bits just kind of go on, and they're just, you know, it's just a different kind of humor. And so I'm not trying to be insulting. I spoke in a very simplistic way, like this movie's not funny. Like I don't mean it like that. I just said that to be impactful. No, I'm just like, because I know that it's a timeless comedy, but I do just think it's the bigger question of it's like, let's take Fiddler on the Roof as one example. Is like, you will never love Fiddler on the Roof as much as I do, even if you watched it this first time and loved it. Because it's a part of my childhood. It's like a part of my brain. And so, do you think that Blazing Saddles is heralded as this wonderful film today by so many people that saw it as when they were kids, but if you watch it today, you just don't see it like that? And you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does, and I don't know
how much value are you giving this film just based on you watched it every day for years in your childhood?
I did. That's why it's number 3. You know, that's why it's number 3 on my list. Is because of that. But I really would. The shitty part is that you can't unexperience it the way that you've experienced it, and I can't unexperience it the way that I've experienced it. So that's what makes comedy so hard, really all film, but comedy specifically, because comedy evolves so quickly. It's such a shorter expiration date, which we've talked about. The things that I look at in terms of comedy are longevity, like how well does it last, and how relevant is it as it continues to age. I look at quotability as a big thing for me. I look at the actual narrative of the film as well. Like, was it a good story? Is there any merit to the story, or is it just like Anchorman? It's just kind of a series of bits. Performances, comedic performances, obviously. Like, are those, like, these are the 4, I think there's another one that I'm blanking on the top of my head. And I think Blazing Saddles checks all those boxes. You know, like, it's influential, that was it. Like, how influential is this film? You know, in the lexicon might not be the right word, or pantheon, maybe that's the word I'm looking for, of the history of comedy films. Like, where does it sit within that? And I don't think anyone's doing stuff like this. I don't think anyone's taking the risks that Mel Brooks is taking.
Yeah, I won't disagree with that.
I don't think anyone's putting together these types of films.
Well, no, that's the whole interesting thing about comedies, is how do you judge comedies over a long period of time? Because they're just, most of them, I think, particularly ones that aren't, to belabor a point, sorry, that aren't that super realistic, don't hold as much of their humor over a long period of time. And I just think that's an interesting conversation, because I wouldn't deny that Blazing Saddles belongs in the top level of importance and impact and influence of comedies. And sure, when it came out, it was such a huge deal, such a comedy event, that I'll never know what that was like, so I don't have that to add to my frame of reference for it. But so I can't, it's like you almost can't judge comedies in a way. It's really unique. So my question to you on this subject is, I wonder how, because this film is simply, to simplify it, is a spoof in so many ways, and I wonder how spoof comedies, how they age over time, and how that's similar or different to other types of comedies, because I feel like spoofs inherently, generally speaking, are very much products of their time, because all of the humor, or a huge part of the humor, has to be very relevant.
Any girl could be this year's prom queen.
Well, I smell bet. Okay, Jakey, about to make a big mistakey. Here's the wager. I'm gonna pick the most hopeless girl at this school, and I'm gonna bet that you can't turn her into prom queen.
The spoof movies that are done today so cheaply are like really for that specific strike while the iron's hot. And we're gonna make just pure parallels to the film that you just saw. Now, what if it went like this? And like, if you haven't seen that movie, then that's not gonna be funny. It's just a guy, you know, falling down an elevator shaft or whatever.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Funny, right?
Write that down.
Yeah, a guy falls down elevator shaft. So spoof movies, I think, have evolved. I think spoof movies have evolved to be some of the worst comedies because of the clear cash grab to doing this. It's like, oh, Scary Movie just came out. Scream just came out. Oh, let's do Scary Movie. Grab. Cash grab.
I'm not going to stand for slander of Scary Movie 1 and 2. Anything after that, sure, but don't be insulting 1 and 2 in front of me.
I don't know what the hell that is, but I'll lick it anyway.
I think spoofs are really interesting because they're very cyclical, and I think that in the 70s they were great, and then they kind of disappeared for a little bit after Blazing Saddles and Airplane, and then they kind of came back in the late 80s, early 90s for a few years for Naked Gun
early
and
90s.
a couple there, and then they were kind of gone again.
Hot Shots Part 2. Hot Shots Part 2, I almost put on my top 10 list.
Part 2.
Part 2, yes, Part 2.
No, I love that movie as a kid.
That movie's so funny.
I want to be with you. I want to hold you. I want to meet your parents and pet your dog.
My parents are dead, Topper. My dog hates them.
This sort of segues into my criticism. I do want to question a little bit. I mean, Mel Brooks is a genius. He is a comedy icon. He deserves well-deserved place in the history of comedy. I would never try and take that away from him. But with that said, I'm going to try and take that away from him.
With that said, he's garbage.
He's garbage. Mel Brooks is exclusively known for spoofs. All of his biggest films are spoofs. Every single one of them. The Producers is...
I was going to say, is The Producers considered a spoof?
I don't know. I mean, no, I don't think it's a specific spoof, but he's still playing off of... I would say no. Outside of The Producers, which I don't love, by the way. I don't love
I never saw it, to be honest.
You should watch it. I don't think it's great. The new one, the with Farrell in it.
Really?
That was not good.
Franz Liebken? I was never a member of the Nazi Party!
I think spoofs a little bit are stacking the deck. Good ones, those 70s, 80s ones especially, because they were really popular.
Yeah.
Because you're borrowing credibility. You're starting with a leg up because the audience already likes that thing. So Westerns built in. You have a built-in Western audience. Robin Hood Men in Tights. You have a built-in audience. You already have a built-in. Dracula, Den loving it, although not great.
We're getting a Dracula Dead and Loving It reference.
I'm trying to think of other Mel Brooks films that I'm clearly... Young Frankenstein. Foolish me for not mentioning. Spaceballs. Built-in audience. All of these films, I'm blanking on. Spaceballs is super funny. Love Spaceballs.
Yeah, I think Spaceballs is my favorite Mel Brooks movie, honestly.
How many assholes we got on this ship anyhow? Yo!
So I kind of think he's cheated his whole career. Like he hacked the comedy system a little bit. Not that he doesn't deserve credit, but he also doesn't deserve credit because, make a film from scratch that no one's already invested in.
Yeah.
Make a film that someone's already has to invest in from zero, not from 50. Yeah. So that to me, I put a little small asterisk next to Mel Brooks' name, but he's still top 5 dead or alive.
I get your point. I think it's fair. I think another part of the reason why we love Mel Brooks so much is that he's such a beloved performer. Like if he didn't turn up in those movies or in other shows or cameos or whatever, we probably wouldn't revere him as much as we do. But because he's so beloved as a person, I think that makes us want to elevate him even more.
Yeah. How do you not like the scene as him as the governor in Blazing Saddles, where he's got Gov on his back of his suit, and he's just. I
mean, he's probably he might be my favorite character that's in it for longer than a few lines. Like he's funny. Hey boys, how you doing? Whatever. He's talking to the girl's boobs.
Yeah.
Work. Hello, boys. Have a good night's rest. I missed you.
Even the stuff that's pushing the boundaries like that feels like it's been done. Like I've seen similarness, in other movies since. Not anymore.
But why not anymore? But why do you think that is? Because of this movie.
I get it. That's great, but that doesn't mean I like the movie more. I can respect the movie. I can put it on a shelf and say, yep, Blazing Saddles is a very important film in the history of comedy.
But that's a good question. There's a difference to you? Like, is there a film that you do not enjoy but still herald as one of the best? Can those two things exist?
For sure. I'm going to try to think of an example off the top of my head, but it'll be challenging.
I don't think it exists.
No, it exists because I use this example 100 times. But saying that there's Paul Thomas Anderson movies that I don't like. I just rewatched Inherent Vice from a few years ago, and I want to like that movie. I don't like it, and I'm sure it's good if you get it and like it. Because he's so good. I think that there's classic film. Oh, I got this one. This is gonna shoot all of the credibility. If I have built up any credibility with my film opinions, this will destroy it. I've never been able to make it all the way through 2001: A Space Odyssey. And that is, many people consider maybe the best film ever. It's Kubrick, who's, I think, the best director ever. I will watch it, I promise. But I just, the first 20 minutes is like apes beating at this fucking tower. It just goes on and on.
Yeah, like
and I'm just I get it.
It's art is subjective. Like if you
don't
like
2001 is considered a mecca of film. So yeah, I'll put that on the shelf and I'll say, if someone asks me the best sci-fi movies of all time, I know I'm going to have to consider that and put it near the top, even though I personally haven't developed a connection with it yet. That's, you have to be able to do that.
I think that's really tough. I think on some level you have to like the film.
No,
Because then
tough.
otherwise you're just letting other people's opinions dictate your own.
No, you're willing to, it's more willing to admit that because art is subjective, that means you're not going to be right all the time. Like, that's just, I wish everyone would be like that. Please, everyone, be more like me.
Yeah.
I accept
you have
that
to
be
right
willing
none
to,
of the time.
True intelligence is willing to, the knowledge that you might be wrong. Like, that is a thing I really believe.
Yeah, well, by that logic, I'm the smartest person on earth.
Well, then I take back everything I just said. I don't understand that leap of faith, but it's like, there's some things just aren't for you. And that doesn't mean that they're bad.
Fair enough.
People need to realize that.
I do try and make that distinction. Like,
if anyone in the world should, you should.
Yeah, whether I like it and whether it is good, I really, really try very hard to separate those two. But at some point, they do blend together. Like, I generally enjoy this, therefore I think it is good. It's slippery slope. So
yeah, I think to your point, I'll meet you. Is I don't think I could think, like, I can't imagine a way that I'm going to think 2001 is one of the best movies of all time if I don't like it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so I can see that as a person who likes to consider myself intelligent. Like, I would like to think I can watch a movie like 2001 or any others that I don't necessarily love and think, okay, yeah, it has this value attached to it because of its artistic merits.
Yeah,
but I don't do that with Blazing Saddles because Blazing Saddles sucks all the dicks.